person, right? So we looked at a bunch of essays, Harpal and I talked about it, and we thought sharing the essays and brief, you can read them at your own time. But we thought just discussing in general, one essay, for example, is based on a personal challenge by a student who was discovered with a chronic condition, diagnosed with a chronic condition, and how she's able to relate that to her interest in biology. The more she understood biology, the more she was able to read about her condition and make changes towards a positive. First, she writes about her honest feelings. I did not like it. I felt I was isolating myself. And later on, the positive steps taken. So, how a challenge is first addressed and the steps taken by the student, and how it is converted into something positive, where out of this, she has developed a love for understanding medicine and how she can help people. And that is how she's able to connect to what she wants to do in life. And she has taken the challenge and driven it in a positive way to show how she has been transformed because of this. So that's an essay which I thought was a very good example for a challenge-based story sharing. What do you feel, Harpa?
You talked about the fact that she talked about her ambition or career ambition, which is not showing here. It's clearly because you worked with the student, so you know it's coming. But what I liked about this is she hasn't talked about she wants to become a doctor. It's in some way it's implicit that she felt the need to do something about it, but she's left it to guesswork. So she's still kept it at a very personal level, not flaunting the fact that I'm going to be a doctor. She's not done any kind of a pity party about, the fact that she's not well. So, and it's a she. So we're giving that away. But what is it? So I start with, as a result, my parents made all the decisions. And then later she's like, I started making the decisions.
Yes, the shift in power.
She writes about, I dreaded celebratory events when families prepared curries. I felt like an outsider. It's like you want to hug this person. You want to talk to this person. It's like, it's a kumbaya moment where she's working directly with you. So that's pretty cool.
And what I highlighted right there are her feelings running through. I was disappointed. I felt isolated. I felt everything was falling apart. And then there comes the moment where it's turning around, right? By my 14th birthday, I realized I would be this way if I don't get up and do something about it, right? So now she has taken a positive turn and now she's making informed decisions, right? And she's able to get something back. And this challenge has only helped her discover her strength and she's running with that. So I think this is a very good essay. I didn't realize there was a paragraph coming. I wonder why it was.
But that's important though. So what happened just now is there's a lot of green, which is feelings. There's a lot of yellow, which is awareness. If you think of it, really the what, where, or what, where, when is limited to just the first 3 lines.
Yes.
Which is exactly what you want in a personal essay. The who, what, when is very early. You make your point. And then later on, it's all about evolution, about emotional maturity. And that's what the professors want to see. They love it. UCs in general want to see something like this. So this is great.
And they're answering the most important questions that we ask as coaches. Why?
Right? The why factor is so critical, Anu, because most students they are able to tell us, right? The why, but they don't write it.
They don't know how to articulate it in a powerful way. When they write, we can talk through them, we can make them talk, but present it in a way where I can see it happen, right? Like see it meaningfully translate to something empowering.
Like I had a student ask me this question, like, what do you mean why? And I'm like, there is a reason why you're telling me this thing.
Yes.
Because there is a value that you created in the process. And that's what I want to know. And it's either a value or it's a value, either there's an explicit value or there's an implicit value through another story that you want to tell me. Like I got punched in the face. I fell down and I cried. I crunched up. I did not come out for 2 days. Okay, why are you telling me this? Because I figured my crap out. Later, I became the boss. I started killing it on this subject. And I'm in some ways so glad I got these scars on me, right? So that's the story, the why, right? But go ahead, keep going.
So that reading into that, what I always tell them is, no, do not write from your wounds because you're still reacting to it. Write from your scars and get in the moment and give me your feelings, because obviously you will feel disappointed. Then you'll feel it's promising. Something is positive. I'm going to.
Right? Do not talk from your wounds. Talk from your scars. Scars are reflections. Scars have learning. Scars have mea culpa moments.
Yes.
Scars have, you know, dang, I could have turned this around. And there's
Yeah.
repentance, there's a panache, there's all kinds of mojo in a scar. The wound is
Yeah.
hard. Wound begs for pity. Scars
Yes.
beg for adulation. So
Yes.
that's what I like. Keep going. Go ahead.
Okay. So the second example is something which is not a challenge, because some students may have, hey, I don't have a challenge. What do I write about? Anything that excites you. For example, the student had written about an activity debate where they they just love debating, and they had gone to a training, but they chose a high school which is having a very great debate program, but they couldn't make it. Like, they failed the audition. And that was a moment where, like, oh my God, everything has fallen apart. And then from there, I will leave the story open to you, Harpal. How do you think the story went? We have blackened it out, but how do you think it
It
went?
could be anywhere, right? He could have gone into Model UN. He could have said, I gave up completely and I decided to become a geek. Or it could be about he decided to double down and learn from his mistakes and try again in a different club. Or, when he came back in the hero's journey, what he learned something new upon his failures has left a lasting impact. And those scars are what he wants to present. And, he's talking about a failure. So it can go anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the very thing you hinted upon in the third choice, that he doubled back again and came up, and he did everything he could, in addition to joining a good program, asking people to critique him, working with debaters to understand their style, and he built it so well. Like, he became an automated machine and became a great debater, auditioned the next year and got selected. And he says, it's not about winning or losing, it's the love I have for debate. And if I had not lost at that moment, I would not have learned what resilience means and getting back again in the game means. And I'm thankful for this opportunity. And I think that was the punch point of his essay that I really loved reading. So, how do you write your cluster essays? What are your thoughts on cluster essays, Harpa? This is different set of essays other than the personal essay, right?
Cluster essays tend to get boring because they could be very boring because they could be very well about just I did these prerequisites and I love doing them. So, oh my goodness, this is what I'm going to do. Or they could be a connection point between the personal essay, like the med school's wannabe doctor had written about her thing, and then she wrote in her cluster about how she wants to become a doctor. There was no surprise. They could be completely a student who could be writing about a cluster because he feels whatever he's going to learn here, there's no other way to learn it because the community, the professor, the kind of work he's done, I can't learn this on Coursera. I've tried doing it this way. I wanted to learn about this and I failed in the past, but this is what I've done. So it's again, it's you can make it fairly emotional about why you want to learn this and make it less about a career saying this is going to pave a way for my career or this is the best thing I could do at Cosmos. Make it more about, like I said, what do you hope to learn and why else could you not do this outside? So a story like you've written, anecdotes showing you briefly your interest in love, which is good. But please go ahead.
So one of the things I have right on the onset is, I like, this is the bone I pick, is that tell me what this cluster is, because they just write without even naming the cluster, right? Like, so I tell them, write, because it's 200 words, there isn't much room for you. So say, like, I have like developed a deep interest in this cluster that I'm interested in applying to, and then start with an anecdotal story where you have some relation to this. Like, maybe it's a project, is an experience, a research you've done with a professor, a club you've started in science, doing science olympiad, like. And if you don't have any of these activities, some students ask, hey, I don't have a background, what do I write about? Then I'm like, can you connect it to a class you took? For example, thermodynamics, something your professor talked to you about, your teacher talked to you about in high school, that made you go start a research work with somebody else or read a paper, and show the connection that you are really passionate. Don't tell me you're passionate about it. Show me what have you done about it, right?
Yeah.
And if you have credentials in the area, what have you done? What do you hope to learn from this cluster? And how will you apply the class learnings towards a college major?
Yeah. Good.
And here is an example that I found was very interesting about a particular interest in cluster tissue engineering and regenerative medicine. And again, the color coding is how they've done something that's yellow, something solid towards the area. For example, the student has worked on identifying bacterial conjugation, antibiotic resistance in bacteria, understanding bacterial conjugation. And they talked about agar plates, and I have a microbiology background, so I'm like, ooh, let's go. But just look at it. Like I proudly wrote in my lab notebook, the meticulously, the resistance bacterial colonies that I counted. That shows you care. You have a passion for doing this, right? Instead of just telling me I love microbiology, right? I spent hours writing this lab notebook, carefully noting the antibiotic resistance I studied, right? And then they are very interested in researching tissue engineering and applying it to medicine, and how you can cure debilitating disease. And of course they are geeking out and they love it, like you can see it in the yellow color coding I have. But then here is the cool point about it. The student is coming and linking it to her favorite his or her favorite tennis player Rafael Nadal, and saying how this cutting edge medicine has been used for cell treatments for helping him in his journey towards recovery. And then giving a real life example, right? And then saying I am particularly interested in this field, and this is what I want to learn from Cosmos. So I think this is a solid essay where they have taken a personal experience of what they have done in the lab and how it has intrigued them, and how they have come across a common example where this is working and they cannot wait to do more. What's your take?
It's new. It's a fresh breath of air from most applications that will come into Cosmos, which we'll talk about. I failed at that prerequisite and I really want to learn it all over again. And that's why I'm coming here. Cosmos is the best place. Or they'll take the name of the professor and say, this professor is doing this, and that's why I want to come over here. And this student did not. They didn't suck up to the professor. They didn't they wrote about Nadal. It's quite possible that the professor does not even know Nadal suffered from it. And if that's the case, you won it right there, right? If they know
Yes.
that Nadal had it, you still won it because now you've brought about a side of the fact that, maybe you were playing tennis or something, that, my favorite tennis player and stuff. And if he's also a Nadal fan, which I can't imagine not people not being Nadal fans.
Exactly.
Great. Now you're earning brownie points, and this is great. Good.
Yeah, and in the previous essay, we saw the cluster essay for the student who had the chronic condition. The student was able to look into professor at Cosmos, and she gave in that paper saying, this is an area I'm more interested in as I investigate further.
Yeah.
Which also shows, I love how you say, Harpal, do your research, research the cluster, research who teaches what. That's how you will be able to establish a connect, right?
I mean, we talk about the same logic even for why major.
Yes.
When we apply for college, we apply for the same concept for other summer programs. That's why Cosmos, this application becomes very pivotal for Californian students to apply to all kinds of summer programs because it gives you that perspective. But go ahead.
Yeah, right. There is the example that I just walked you through where she's talking about the particular professor who's going to be teaching the Cosmos, and how they have done research on an amib desert beetle. And that is an area where she wants to explore further for understanding biodiversity, microbiology, and environmental toxicology, right? So know your program and research it very well, right? Like only then you will be able to give the connect and what you have done in the past and how you can connect it, right?